just in case you missed it, Chris Borland, 49ers linebacker, has decided that time for him to retire. As a young guy, just played through his rookie season, had a really good season. He's only had 2 concussions in his entire life. One in 8th grade, one during his sophomore year of high school. So this guy does not have a history of concussions at all. He's now the 4th player under the age of 30 in the NFL to have retired because of I've either lost my love for the game or I just don't want to get injured anymore. Patrick Willis, this wasn't a concussion issue. Jake Locker said, I just kind of lost my love for the game. If you remember, Jake Plummer, he was 32 years old, had a chance to make a lot of money, said, I lost my love for the game.
Well, this guy's different, this Borland guy, because of what you mentioned. He came out and said, I'm afraid of head injuries. I'm afraid of how that can affect my future. And I think this is going to be a very, I don't want to say seminal moment, but a very important moment in football history where a guy who clearly is a good player, clearly is young, and like you said, clearly doesn't have that many concussions on his resume, is saying, I'm gonna win this fight before I really get into it.
I liked Borland a lot at Wisconsin. I advocated the Broncos take him as a linebacker.
Me too.
And once again, they
blessing in disguise.
They didn't
he would have quit. He retired.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness they did.
Yeah.
But I do believe this. I do believe that the concussion issue is. It's the greatest threat to the NFL that exists right now. It's not too much football on Thursday night and Tuesday night and Monday night. It's too much football for the brains of the guys that are playing. And there are going to be more guys. He won't be the last that says, you know what, my mom or my spouse or my daughter or my son say, Dad or honey or son, don't do that anymore. And some of them are going to listen and say, I'm not. And I've read, just as boxing has become known as a ghetto sport. You know, if you've got nothing else to do, you go in the ring and you punch somebody's lights out. If they ghettoize football, then anybody who's smart and has another alternative is going to go play basketball or is going to go be a store manager for Apple or whoever.
Well, I'll say there's 2 things. One, first of all, when we talk about boxing, there's nothing more ghetto than Mitt Romney. And then
absolutely,
most definitely, because the party that he belongs to certainly appeals to him.
Exactly. And then, but then
the green Kool-Aid.
Here's the big debate, and you, of course, Mark, brought it up there. The idea of they talk about, Thursday night games, Tuesday night, that's going to ruin the game. It's 2 different things. It's, will kids play football?
Right.
And will we watch football? And I hate to say it, but even if fewer and fewer kids play football, we're still going to watch this damn thing.
Could not agree with you more.
Thank you.
I think you nailed it perfectly.
Okay.
Because I think that's the best argument. And I want to add on to that for a minute. The concussion issue, and the NFL has ignored it, and I'm not here to defend the NFL. What they have done is absolutely egregious. What they have done, in my opinion, is just as bad as what the tobacco industry did.
Wow.
They did.
No, I'm listening.
They lied. They said there's no tie between lung cancer and cigarettes, just like the NFL said there's no tie between, concussions and, CTE and whatever. My point being this, that the NFL, playing in the NFL, is not necessarily causing CTE. It's playing Pop Warner, high school, college. It's a combination of things, a combination of hits. And let's be honest here. Even though the NFL has done a very poor job, and they are trying to step it up, of trying to monitor this with doctors, they have the best doctors. Pop Warner, you have some guy out there wearing his varsity letter jacket who still thinks he's back in high school, and he doesn't know the first thing about tackling techniques.
Okay. There's not very many advantages to being as old as I am, but I do distinctly remember as a child the sports world before there was a Super Bowl.
Okay.
And at that time, the NFL was not the biggest sport in America. And that was 50 years ago. To think that it's going to be the biggest sport in America 50 years from now might be correct, but it's just plain foolhardy. Based on what? Based on what? Things change. And I strongly disagree with both of you. Will guys like you and me watch NFL even if somebody dies on the field? Heck, we might like it better. But if 85% of moms tell their kids, whether they're in the suburbs or the inner city or Maine or California, you know what, Johnny, you're not playing football.
Right.
Because I said so. And if you want dinner, you're not going to go out and play football. If that is the case, then football's dead. It's just done.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because moms, as powerful as the NFL is, it ain't more powerful than moms. And if moms decide there isn't going to be no more football, there won't be any more football.
That's definitely interesting. And of course, we've been joking about boxing, but boxing is a perfect example of that. In the 1930s and 40s and 50s, boxing was enormous,
right.
and now it's not as big. But I think, and we haven't talked about this yet, but the idea of media, well, I'm not even using the word right, but like the idea of television and the idea of the way we watch sports now has changed so differently, if I'm saying this right, than 50 years ago. Football is the perfect television sport.
That's a strong thing, but it isn't too big to fail.
That's interesting.
I'm going to tread very lightly on what I'm about to say, or using your phrase, which I used to say on our radio show all the time. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this. This is a socioeconomic issue.
Okay.
I think as much as anything else. When you have kids coming from poor neighborhoods, you will have parents look at their kids, and if they are good athletes and they can play football, I don't think they're going to be as concerned as their kids having head trauma as you would a kid going to Valor, right? Coming from a better, more upscale home. I don't want you playing.
Right, and
I think there's a little bit of a difference.
That's definitely interesting, and we don't even have to talk about race. Honestly, I mean, it could be a poor kid on a farm, a poor kid.
That's right.
It can be anywhere.
Right. It's a way out.
I'm reading a book right now.
I'm coloring a book.
I'm actually reading a book. It's about Allen Iverson, and a big part of it is his mom.
Yeah.
And how much she saw him as a commodity, where she could get out of tough times, get the car. She always wanted to get the house, and she of course encouraged her son to play basketball. She loved her son, and it was fun and the whole thing. But it was a business aspect too, and I assume that's kind of what you're saying. Is a lot of parents see this. Hey, Johnny's not that smart. He's not growing up in a place where he can grow in an education way. But man, he can throw that ball.
And I'm not predicting that lacrosse becomes the big sport 50 years from now, but it's much bigger here than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago in Colorado. And that's a game where you whack each other with sticks. That's the violence we like. Wham! But you don't whack each other over the head with sticks.
Right.
And so
I'm just glad you didn't have a stick, because I would have fallen over.
But there is alternatives out there.
Yeah.
Some of them might not even be invented yet, to feed our need for speed and violence and screaming at the TV. And sooner or later, it will be something other than the NFL. Probably not in my lifetime, but maybe in Mr. Hochman's lifetime.